Arizona weather can be unpredictable and at times unrelenting. From blinding dust storms to torrents of rain and damaging wind, this is just some of what Mother Nature has to offer in the summertime. And when you sprinkle in triple-digit temperatures for weeks on end, our monsoon can be extremely dangerous if you're not prepared. Hello, and thank you for joining us for this 2024 Fox 10 Weather Experts Monsoon Special. Alongside Ty Brennan and meteorologist Krystal Ortiz, I'm Cory McCloskey. You know, the monsoon is our most active weather season, beginning June 15th and lasting through the end of September.
But the monsoon isn't one storm or a series of storms. It's a shifting of winds that brings us a specific weather pattern each summer. The change begins with the monsoon high.
You can see it on our map. It starts south in Mexico each June. At this point, we're hot and dry.
But by July, it begins to slide north, bringing with it the higher humidity and the stormy weather.
But just how humid and how stormy each monsoon is depends on where the high ends up. Winds in the upper atmosphere rotate around high pressure in a clockwise motion. This drags that moisture from over the Gulf of Mexico right up to us in Arizona. For our monsoon to bring us plenty of rain, the high needs to park near the Four Corners and remain nearby throughout the rest of summer.
At the same time, an area of low pressure called the thermal low often develops in our southwest. Winds rotate around low pressure in a counterclockwise motion, so this helps drag additional low-level moisture from the Gulf of California and Pacific Ocean right to us.
So now we're in good shape. The high will hang here through early September, giving us our best shot at heavy rain and all of those thunderstorms. Then, though, the shift south begins. The high falls back down into Mexico, and the monsoon comes to an end.
As we know, every year doesn't produce a stormy, wet monsoon. In fact, last year was the driest in Phoenix on record. We only picked up 0.15 of an inch of rain at Sky Harbor Airport. We average around 2.5 inches of rain during a normal monsoon. The lack of rain officially set the second longest stretch of dry days, 147 straight. Even during our driest monsoon, we still had a few active days, 3 to be exact.
All right, let's break them down. July 26th brought down power lines and trees in Mesa. August 31st was a dusty, windy mess. And then on September 12th, we saw a powerful storm stretch across the entire valley, even flipping planes at Falcon Field.
But still, more than the storms, the dust, or the lightning, Monsoon 2023, or our non-soon, will most be remembered for the heat. And you know, you hear old timers, maybe your grandparents or other folks who've lived in the valley for a long, long time say, oh, it's so much warmer than it was when I was a kid. And so when you get a summer day at about 106 degrees, which really isn't that much for us, but you'll really feel it because of all that heat being bounced off of all of these buildings and being really radiated back on you from the ground around you and those buildings nearby as well. Now, if you get out into the suburbs, well, a grassy area or farmland, it's going to be the same sun beating down on you, but it may feel a whole lot better. Even a few degrees makes a difference here in Arizona, of course. So 103 beats 106. But the real trouble for this urban heat island effect comes at night when we would love to be dropping into the 70s. It's not going to happen. In town, you may find your low point to be at about 88 degrees. That's pretty tough because all of this concrete and steel just traps in that heat, so you don't get that nice relief that comes right before sunrise. But to give you a little bit better idea of how all of this works, come with me. Let's step outside. Well, here we are, of course, outside in downtown Phoenix, and just like every big city, it is a sprawl of glass and steel and concrete and asphalt. And of course, all of that heat is absorbed throughout the day. And through our thermal imaging camera, you can see just how hot everything is around me. Now, I'm even in a dark suit, cooler than what you see all around, but it's very tough for this heat to dissipate during the overnight hours, especially for a city built on a grid like Phoenix is. Now, there are some ways to beat this urban heat island effect. One of those is green spaces. Wait till you see the difference it makes. Well, here we are at Mountain View Park in Chandler, a beautiful space with plenty of shade. Now, the plants and trees that you see around me, they do a great job because not only do they dissipate the heat, they actually push moisture back into the atmosphere, which is, of course, what we all want. It cools us off in that way. And just to give you a comparison here, what we've shown you is one of the nearby rooftops. We're showing about 130 degrees on the top of that roof. However, this purple area, which is the grass that was right behind me a moment ago, 85 degrees. What a difference. So we're looking at about 25 or 30 degrees less than what you're typically seeing in a more urban setting.
So the Salvation Army considers extreme heat Arizona's natural disaster.
After last year's record heat wave, county officials have partnered with cities and organizations around the valley to keep heat relief centers like this one open longer. This is the Salvation Army's Respite Center in Chandler.
So last year we didn't open until June. This year we opened up a month early, so we started in May. So from May to September 30th is what we're doing this year.
This location will remain open during the week with extended hours for anyone looking for shelter, but they'll also be open on the weekends when an excessive heat warning is in effect.
I think last year we had over 8,200 clients come in and out. We served over 10,000 bottles of water, and already this year, just been open a month, we get an average of 44 to 60 clients per day.
And the Salvation Army says it's important to check on your neighbors to make sure they remain safe this summer.
There are so many people that don't have working AC, or they choose not to turn on their AC because they're on a fixed income and they want to use their money for food and for medications.
Still ahead on this Fox 10 Weather Experts Monsoon Special, we tag along with the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office and their Airborne Rescue Training Team to see what it takes to pull drivers out of a flooded wash.
And later, what can we expect this monsoon season? Will it be an active one? My Monsoon Outlook is coming up. Following heat, flooding is one of the top weather dangers in Arizona. Take a look at this dramatic video of a water rescue near Black Canyon City. The driver was able to get to higher ground, but the truck lost to floodwaters raging down a wash, a scene that plays out too often during the monsoon. In fact, it's something we say every monsoon. Turn around, don't drown. We're back in our virtual weather lab right now, and we're going to talk about the threshold for when moving water becomes particularly dangerous, especially along roadways. Now, you can see our current setup. We've got water that's running near a road. It hasn't run over the road yet, but it's in a road that is prone to flooding, meaning it's low-lying, and if there's too much rain, it'll wash out. So let's see what happens here when the water starts to rise. Notice how quickly that do not pass sign floats away. Now a vehicle approaching does not know how deep that water actually is on the road in front of them. This is where we always say, turn around, don't drown. If you cannot tell the depth of water, it is not worth the risk. But unfortunately, as we know, folks take the risk. If this vehicle drives into this water at just 12 inches of moving water, easily that car can be swept downstream, as you see. Now, when it comes to something like a truck or an SUV, the threshold's a little higher, but still just as dangerous. Notice this SUV, same thing, pulling up to the water. As it drives into the water at 12 inches, they may feel safe. But the problem with monsoons is the rain comes down so heavily and quickly, a wash can very rapidly rise in terms of its level. So, say this moves up to 18 to 24 inches of water. All of a sudden, that SUV, same situation as the car, floating downstream, and a water rescue is underway. The dangers of moving water seen all across the valley each monsoon when we have our heaviest storms.
I'm Troy Hayden. 99% of the time, washes in and around the valley are like this. They're bone dry. But we just saw how little water it takes to sweep a car or an SUV down one of these washes. And when that happens, there's a group of men and women with the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office who will risk their lives to save yours. Two rescuers dangle out the side of a speeding helicopter as two pilots navigate dangerous conditions and terrain. If you ever find yourself stuck in a monsoon swollen wash, these may be the best friends you'll ever have. Pulling off a mission like this takes precise timing and skill, and getting these crews ready for the job takes a lot of work.
Ryan's gonna run safety over on that side, so he'll kind of guide you guys where to get in.
The Maricopa County Sheriff's Office allowed us to embed inside an early morning airborne rescue training mission, showing us how they operate. And they also showed us their newest tool to help get the job done, a brand new helicopter equipped with a hoist.
So this is our Bell 429 helicopter. It's our main rescue ship, and it came with all the fancy stuff. It has glass cockpits, the best that Bell has to offer.
So the boom will come out and the hook will come down on a cable, and it can reach victims in precarious situations, cliffs, trees.
Or swollen, flooded washes and rivers.
I'm tethered to my harness.
Because the doors will be open during this operation and the rescuer will be dropped out of the helicopter, the first thing we have to do is make sure everybody is secured to the aircraft.
My rescuer is on Orca. Orca's functioning properly.
Then we take off. This is up near Bartlett Lake. The team will be working out of the Verde River. It will act as a flooded wash for this training. A volunteer victim wades out into the river, simulating somebody who was stuck or swept away by floodwaters. Then the aircrew moves in.
RS is attached. Bring it back to the skid.
A rescuer steps outside the open door of the airborne helicopter, trusting his gear and his teammates as he hangs with his feet on the skids hundreds of feet in the air. He carries a harness for the victim. Now the flight crew needs to move into place so they can drop the rescuer near that victim. He's lowered down from the helicopter. Another rescuer controls the hoist. At the same time, he's guiding the pilots to the scene. The victim is floating in the current, and this next part is crucial. The rescuer has to snag him, can't let him pass. The downdraft from the helicopter's blades churning up the water.
Good hold, good position.
The victim floats towards the rescuer as the pilots hover just above tall trees. But then, the victim actually floats under a tree, and the airborne crew struggles to see him. Getting caught up in the tree, that's not an option.
Good position. Under a branch so I can't see him.
The crew isn't rattled at all and calmly eases out of the situation.
Forward, give me a nice easy right 5. Right 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold position here. Bring it up underneath it.
The victim and rescuer easily clear the trees and are headed to dry ground. You can only imagine what the ride would be like for an actual victim, plucked out of the water and now soaring towards the safety of the shore. Feet back on solid ground. This kind of training is not without risk or financial cost, but the team stresses these drills are the only way they can make sure they're ready for real life or death situations.
It's so important that we have to do it every week. Water training we do at least several times a year. When you go out to do a rescue, you want to have already experienced it previously, so that's why we train every week.
By now, the message is out there. Stay out of flooded washes. But if the worst happens, these men and women will risk their own lives to save yours.
On to the skid. Orca is on.
Helping with that whole operation was a group of volunteers who not only donate their time for things like this, they also donate their time for other rescues out in the wilderness. Troy Hayden, Fox 10 News.
Still ahead, we take a closer look at these incredible microbursts and examine what makes them so dangerous for people on the ground. The monsoon can provide us with some incredible images showing the force of Mother Nature. Scenes like this one, a giant microburst in the skies above Phoenix. So what is a microburst and how is it formed? We're here in the virtual weather lab to explain just that. Now the good news, not every thunderstorm is a microburst, but what differentiates the two is the damage that a microburst creates. Now this all starts up in the clouds. They become so saturated with rain that it falls out, creating a downdraft. And when that happens, we see some of those winds in excess of 100 miles an hour. That puts it on par with a weak tornado. And that's when we see the damage, toppling trees, ripping roofs off of homes and buildings, and even knocking over semis. Now, the good news, they usually only last a few minutes, and the radius of damage is anywhere from 1 mile to 2.5 miles. And when we see this damage, you know it for sure. That's exactly what happened at Falcon Field last year in Mesa.
Planes destroyed at one of the smaller airports here in the valley. Some of the most shocking damage we see so far is at Falcon Field in North Mesa.
20 seconds before we went live, heavy thunder, very, very loud. You can take a look and see some of the planes here. We have one of the planes that was overturned at the airport here. We spoke to another man out here. There, if you can hear some of that thunder from my mic here. We spoke to a man out here who says one of the planes that was inside from their organization, one of them was inside the hangar and it was destroyed.
Thousands of people today are cleaning up following last night's powerful round of storms.
One of the hardest hit areas was East Mesa. And look at the damage caused at Falcon Field Airport. Officials say at least 2 buildings at the facility were ripped apart by the fierce winds. And the high winds even upended some airplanes, tossing them across the tarmac.
I heard the winds overnight, just the rain that was pounding down, and something I guess we weren't expecting so much toward the end of the monsoon season as well. So definitely we're going to be continuing our coverage out here this morning, driving around the airport and seeing the different spots where there's plenty of damage.
Take a look at this hangar behind me here, though. This hangar was built decades ago. It has withstood countless storms over the years. But as you can see, it was just no match for the winds last night.
After the break, I'll explain why rain totals at Sky Harbor Airport don't always tell the whole story surrounding the monsoon. And I'll have my 2024 Monsoon Outlook. We hear it every year. The rain total at Sky Harbor Airport, that's not what you got at your house. While the airport is a long-standing and consistent way to compare trends over the decades, it doesn't always tell the whole story, especially during the monsoon. Enter the Maricopa County Flood Control District.
We're looking into how the monsoon or even yearly precipitation evolves over time. You want to have a good dense network that covers everything, not just a single point.
While it doesn't rain often in the valley, when it does, Maricopa County is ready.
We have over 350 rain gauges, over 40 weather stations, over 200 stream gauge stations.
They closely watch how much rain is falling and where.
We're getting all that data that's coming in live, and then we attach that data to flood response plans, emergency action plans.
Using their data and plans, emergency managers, the National Weather Service, and our team right here at Fox 10 work together to quickly get the word out during flooding.
It just lets you be aware and proactive about the changing weather situation, which, as we know in the monsoon, things change fast.
But what if you at home want to get involved?
There's a lot of bragging rights people have about how much rain they got in relative to their neighbors.
Nancy Selliver joined COCORA's, the Community Collaborative Rain, Hail, and Snow Network, in 2009.
Personally, I'm involved with COCORA's because I was a state climatologist when COCORA's first started.
Her South Mountain home is equipped with an atmometer, which measures evaporation, as well as an automatic and manual rain gauge.
So we have the outer cylinder and we have the inner cylinder, and the inner cylinder is measured in hundredths of an inch increment.
To join COCORA's, there's just 2 requirements. Order a 4-inch manual rain gauge and share your findings.
So every morning at 7 o'clock, you come out and you look and see what's in the gauge, and then you dump it out, and then you go and you enter it in your computer.
Most days are quiet, but like the Flood Control District's network, sometimes your gauge can reveal crucial info.
In 2014, we had a situation on South Mountain where we had over 3 inches in 90 minutes. and it caused horrendous flooding in the entire neighborhood in South Phoenix area.
That's a year that Mark O'Malley with the National Weather Service remembers well.
There were some CocoRa's observers down in Chandler that measured over 6 inches of rain with that event that we might not have known about.
Making you an important tool in their storm analysis.
There's approximately 300 people currently participating in the CocoRa's program, and we're always looking for more people, especially on the outskirts of town and the more rural areas.
If you're interested in joining CocoRa's, simply visit our website. We'll have a link. The question is, will your rain gauge be busy this monsoon? Let's dive into our 2024 Outlook. There are no guarantees in long-range forecasting, but the Climate Prediction Center put out this map showing a high likelihood for hotter than average temperatures. As for rain, they're leaning toward a drier than average monsoon. Here's what we're considering. First off, we're expected to shift into a La Nina in the next few months. The La Nina typically has a more clear impact on our winters, but if we look back at the last 7 monsoons under a La Nina, we see a mixed bag, above, below, and near average seasons. When we looked at years that began similar to this year, especially wet in February and March, and warm by April and May, those years more often were drier than average during the monsoon. So here's what we're expecting. Another hotter than average summer, but not necessarily as hot as last summer, with near to below average rain. Of course, the monsoon usually brings at least 1 or 2 big storms, and that's all it takes. Thank you for watching our 2024 Fox 10 Weather Experts Monsoon Special. We hope this information will help keep you safe during our extreme summer weather.
And don't forget, you can always get the latest forecasts and alerts by downloading our Fox 10 weather app. It's available for free on both Android and iOS.
And you can find a link to the app and other helpful monsoon tips on our website, fox10phoenix.com/monsoon. And remember to stick with the Fox 10 weather experts for all of your monsoon coverage. Have a great evening. Stay safe.